All right, so I did have my meeting this morning, but it was not with Jim as I expected. It was with Tim at the flight school. So I have to go back there on Friday and continue that meeting. But overall, I would say it was a productive meeting. And now I am waiting for 1:30 when Xavier can make himself available for us to have a phone call, because I just, I need more than what we're able to provide each other in our relationship. It's never been like this. He's been completely inundated for the last 30 days, but with what? When every single time I drive by, he's just sitting on the sidewalk, with this big giant cart of crap. An industrial microwave that he found on the side of the street and an industrial blender. Like, this is not conducive to love or, support or happiness. I have to schedule an appointment to discuss anything with him. Otherwise, he's too busy to take a phone call, but he's just sitting on the sidewalk, not doing anything. It's just not making sense to me, at all. And then I haven't been able to link up with my daughter for her birthday that just passed to give her birthday gift. Since they disconnected my apps on August the 3rd, I haven't been able to make anything other than one promo for $100. That's it, since August 3rd, which has been very difficult with regards to, eating and just doing much of anything. And then I have another daughter having a birthday soon, and my father just had a birthday, and I was really happy to see that the family was able to get together and go to a show. They had an AC/DC cover band. My dad loves that, so that was great, but I would be lying if I said it doesn't hurt me significantly to not be able to be included. I want to, my whole life has been centered around family. You know what I mean? Even the days when I didn't have money to have birthday parties and stuff for my children. And I'm not offended. I know that my family wouldn't do that to hurt me. You know what I mean? I know there's got to be some other reason, which is why I keep saying clarity, starting from way back when I was a young girl and the Jamaica stuff and everything since then. Clarity is what I'm looking for. Nothing more and nothing less. But I still have the goal to purchase my house by the end of this year. And, I believe that I can do it. I believe that I can and deserve to be able to do that for myself, for my children. And so that's what I remain focused on. But there's just so much going on here in the shadows, that I don't know how to even define or begin to guess about. And it's just very truly unfair, Xavier and I made a promise to each other based on, if you guys know, I've given a lot of insight. My adult life when I was 18, so from birth to about, I would say, 14 and a half, I had a very, very, very normal middle class, upbringing. We had our structured days where we went to school, came home, had dinner, did our homework at the kitchen table, and maybe got an hour to play outside with friends in the neighborhood, and maybe got a half hour of TV time, shower, and then bed. That was our life every day. And then the Jamaica thing happened, and that, was wild. Being abandoned in a third world country, my dad didn't even know. And I know my mother, there's no mother that would say, oh, my daughter has an attitude, but no history of sexual promiscuity, no history of crime, no history of theft, no history of, drugs or alcohol. So she should go to this third world country that's in civil unrest for a year, and I'm not going to tell her dad about it. Like, that's not real. There's something else there, and I swear to you guys, from the bottom of my heart and soul, in the most honest space I can access, every time I have attempted to bring it up, without exception, to her, to my aunts, to anyone, they have shut me down immediately, not permitted me to continue the conversation, and just said that, she did what she had to do to save my life, to help me survive, whatever that means, and they will not elaborate. None of them will elaborate. And I've been trying to get my passport records and just create a reconciliation with documentation of exactly what I went through, what dates I went through it, who was there as a witness, and what information I can gather so that I could have this clarity that I deserve. Everyone deserves to have that sort of clarity in their life, everyone without exception. And, I haven't been able to make any progress in that regard. So I'm still working on that. But then when I turned 18, I got into a 5-year relationship between 4 and 5 years with the father of my 2 older children. We were married. I call all of my relationships marriages. That one was the only one that was actually filed with the state of Illinois and accepted. The marriages that we filed, Dylan and I, were rejected by the state of Illinois. We had a prenup. We filled out all of the paperwork, but they refused to allow the marriage to go through. And with Orlando, it was the same thing. It was like a marriage. We lived together. We had a child together. We were together every day, monogamous, heterosexual, normal relationship. But the same thing that happened with my first marriage at the 4 or 5 year mark, it started to be like we had to separate through what felt like external sorts of triangulations or like setups. And it was the same thing with Orlando. I'm telling you, right after Alexis was born, she was probably 6 months old when I found that Facebook account or younger. And it was like, he didn't even use my laptop. I had a laptop for school. My mom had given it to me, and he didn't even use it. But there was a Facebook page that was a duplicate of his with hundreds of messages to random women. And that's what supposedly led to us bringing it. But it was like someone left it there on purpose for me to see it, is how it felt. It didn't feel like an accident. And I know him. I don't feel like that's something he would want to do to me or anyone. Why would someone want to do that to someone that they love and have a child with? So that was really what did it, in that relationship. And now, and the same thing with Dylan. Look at the same 4.5 year mark, the same exact chronological order. Everything was good the first 2 years, then, or 18 months. I mean, as good as it could have been under the circumstances, being extorted by a detective and feeling like the state of Illinois is my only protection through this recorded line on the prison. That was a lot of pressure and stress in itself. But I don't believe in coincidences, so for every one of my relationships to just suddenly dissolve between 4 and 5 years, there's something going on there. And now Xavier and I have been together inseparable every day, with the exception of, I would say, maybe 3 days total. We have been together, slept together, lived together, relied upon each other, and been in a monogamous, heterosexual, committed relationship. We have a child together. Now here we are, at the 4 year, and I think it's 4 years and 1 month right now. And for the last 30 days, it seems like I don't even see him. I have to fight for a time to talk to him on the phone. But I ask, do you want to be over? Like, I need support. I know what I need. I need to be understood. I need to be loved. And that this is what all humans need, in happy relationships and deserve, love and support and acceptance and consideration and all of the clarity that I'm looking for. I need a partner who understands and has the time and patience to understand what I've been through and where I'm going. And I do believe that Xavier has that ability, but it's just there are so many external people dipping their hands into our relationship and business. And I don't understand, why. I really don't get it. I don't understand. It doesn't at all feel like it's been for mine or his best interest. And I feel like that's been a common theme for my whole entire life. There has been so much external interference from people who genuinely have no right to even be involved, doing things to shake us at our core and try and separate us or use us for their own self-interest or the interest of someone else's well-being, not our own. And it's just so weird to me, because if you are going to interact with a couple or interfere with a couple's relationship, it should most certainly be in an effort to make it stronger, or at the very least be friends with both of them, or keep your friendship, say it's a work relationship and you know the person at work, keep your relationship respectful and limited to work. You don't step on the toes of someone else's husband or wife. That's unacceptable in any capacity, in any form. And you don't go doing things behind, the back of the significant other in an effort to cause them to have to break up and that 4 to 5 year period, this is the fourth time. This is the fourth relationship. And I'm giving all of this information, and documenting so thoroughly about every single thing that I've gone through. And I just asked Xavier, when they disconnected my apps, Xavier was sleeping, in the back seat of the car every day. I was working 7 out of 7 days of the week, and he was here with me asleep, catching up on sleep. At nighttime, he was supposedly sleeping too. So what was causing him to be so tired and disconnected? I don't know, but it didn't matter to me because we're a team. We're a team. We're a husband and wife. He hasn't been able to contribute financially on his own. So it was me carrying our whole family and all of our expenses with just Uber, Lyft, delivery applications, promotions, and various forms of social media management and marketing and photo shoots and things of that nature. And Xavier does have the capacity to be brilliant. He likes to create digital art. And I told him, I created a whole business plan for him, where we will, collaborate with various other third parties and industries in an effort to get his art featured and seen so that people can bid on it. And he's super excited and says he wants to do it. And I mean, he doesn't need to have a developed sense of business acumen. I can go in with him as a business manager. He can be that eccentric artist. He could stay in his own lane of identity, and I can stay in mine. But I don't know what's going on or what's causing it. It has just been so concerning. And the only communication I have with regards to my baby is if he's able to get on the phone with his mother. She won't answer my calls or text messages, and we don't have any interpersonal issues, her and I. We don't even have a history. The first time I met her was the day she showed up at my bedside when I gave birth, and it felt as though there was a premeditated, pre-curated set of circumstances where they already had a plan that he was going to go with her, and that's what they did. So now, the stakes are really high because that's the only connection that I'm able to keep at this point. So I don't know, I'm trying to be really thorough, but also understanding and patient. But it's just getting to be exhausting. And then they've been all of the antagonisms and the badgering and the baiting and the stalking and the harassments that I have reported so thoroughly for the last 6 years, along with my live videos where I showed you guys the line technology that was being used to change my voice, my cadence, my grammar. All of those videos from my live have been removed. Someone, without my permission, took those videos down. And the videos that were posted that resulted in me being charged with civil indirect contempt of court were posted with that technology, in someone else's voice and my likeness. And this has got to be the most corrupt set of circumstances that I have ever witnessed or known. And I continue to try to reach out to State's Attorney Wayne Jakowski, who is Illinois State's Attorney. He's employed by DePaul as well as a teacher, but his specialty is in public corruption. And I'm not reaching out to him to tattle on someone. I'm reaching out to him because I need some clear guidelines, direction, and understanding of expectation with regards to not only my case with my child, but overall, what is going on here. And then in 2015-16, when I started to be referred to as a mole or a spy or an FBI agent or a police officer or a confidential informant, this was all by random people of the general public who were referring to me in this way. And the state of Illinois changed my insurance plan from Blue Cross Blue Shield to Molina. Literally, Molina, which is the word for girl mole. And I called them back and said, I didn't choose this. And they said, well, we changed it for you. So it was like I was being antagonized in public and referred to as a spy. And then the state of Illinois goes and changes my insurance plan from Blue Cross Blue Shield to Molina. And I'm reporting on this in real time using social media. And it's going to be very interesting when I finally am permitted access to the technological development that can bring up those videos, because I told you guys this before. Every time you make a posting on the internet, it creates its own unique HTML. And that HTML is always retrievable, even after it's been dismantled and removed. So all of the videos that I have created in real time, whether you've removed them or hidden them or not, they will resurface. They will absolutely resurface, and they'll resurface to an IMEI with or without the use of Tor or another deceptive agent browser. They'll all resurface, so if you have been behaving as a deceptive actor or deceptive agent with regards to my likeness, my case, or my life, it's going to come out, and I'm thirsty for that clarity. And like I said before, this is not I want to tattle on someone situation. This is I want to live my life in a way that allows me to actually live, not just sit around suffering, having to rely upon other individuals as they're able to possibly help me out with a few bucks. I am beyond the level of employable that would result in a six-figure income realistically. There's no reason why I've applied at all of those jobs. My emails are being hindered from use. I have to switch my email and phone number regularly. I'm being worked but not paid. I'm being used and exploited but not compensated or appreciated or thanked. And that was old decades ago. So now it's ancient. And I want to buy a house now. I want to live my life now. I want to be happy. I want to be productive. I want to create. I want to build. I want to do all the same things that everyone else wants to do. I want to do all of those things. I want to travel the world. I want to take my children on vacations. I want to buy my kids clothing when they need it and shoes, and the same for myself. I mean, this is just ridiculous. And yeah, they took down the coco.chanel.ysl, which was a day by day of every day that they had me held in that tent. It was a narrative of every single day, either a post or a video or some sort of dialogue as to what was going on. I called them FTRs, for the record, similar to the way that I do now when I'm documenting. But I would show all of the antagonistic things that were being done to cause me harm or fear or confusion or, the feeling of being unsafe or targeted or hunted, as I wrote about in a blog post. And rather than addressing those items in a court setting or outside of a court setting, but directly, face to face with a plan on how to resolve them or what's expected of me to get past those situations, we're 6 years and counting of me documenting almost on a daily basis, and 10 years and counting since the first round of extortion from the Detective Shepard. And I have not had a penny of restitution, restoration, or repayment with regards to all of the fraud that's been taken from my account, the unpaid work that I have been exploited into doing, or restitution for any of the victim services, including but not limited to the stabbing, the 2 bludgeonings, the being punched while I slept on the train with all my belongings in my lap and fell asleep and being woken up by someone giving me 2 blows to the back of the head. All of those things were the sexual assaults. I have not received a penny. I have not received a moment in court, and I have not received any sort of grace or mercy or protection, as of right now, when they're being permitted to do the exact same antagonistic behaviors that they were being permitted to do in 2020 that I was reporting on daily, that have been communicated to me directly from the higher authority, would never be permitted again, ever. So I want to know why here we are today and I'm still not, being given access to these forms of assistance. And this is not assistance. There's a law that says despise the free lunch. I want you to firmly understand that in the most humble way possible, there is nothing that I owe money on at this stage in my life. I am owed so many millions of dollars. A person I know very closely who I grew up with, Robert Kazukis, I believe he's currently in the IDOC system, but I could be mistaken. I found out from his mother, actually, that he received a $91,000 settlement because he had sex with a counselor in a drug rehab funded by the state of Illinois, and that they sued them and won a $91,000 settlement for that lawsuit. I was sexually harassed by a detective and extorted and under threat of them taking my children, forced to gather evidence and follow a group of individuals. I was sexually harassed in and out of offices where they were labeled DCFS to see Weston, and no one has done anything for me. I was raped. They stole my Cadillac CTS right after I made my final payment on it. No one has given me a penny back. And when I was working full-time, driving deliveries and Uber and all of that, after you took out the money for my car payment and gas, I was not even making the federal minimum wage. And I was working 6 to 14, 15, 16-hour shifts every day, 7 out of 7 days of the week. They disconnect my apps on August 3rd. And I'm just subjected to sleeping in my vehicle every day and wandering around asking people to help me with gas while I call company after company after company, offering website development, AI development, marketing, sales. I have applied to McDonald's. I have applied to Taco fucking Bell. I have applied to Mariano's, Jewel. I have applied everywhere. Someone in this demographic thinks that it's funny to lock me into a space of no resources. They locked me out of the government system of food relief by saying that they overpaid me $900 during that period when I was lucky to make the minimum wage. They didn't overpay me $900, but they said I will never qualify for one of those food programs again because they overpaid me $900 and that I need to pay them back $900 in an effort to ever get on that, get that sort of assistance again. Then they alluded to the fact that, or the, insinuation that Xavier may qualify or that he may qualify for disability or something along those lines. And then they separated us. And I'm not permitted to park in the city of Chicago overnight. And he's not permitted to get in my car and drive away from the city of Chicago. So they locked me into a space of despair with no access to feed myself. They stole my infant son at 3 days old directly out of the womb. They looked the other way while I was harassed and abused and exploited. They did not compensate or even attempt to pursue victim services or even give me access to attend a court date of which I was victimized and someone was being prosecuted or even questioned, because I have no idea the outcomes. I don't even know the names of those individuals. They've hidden and sealed all of those records from me, even though I'm the victim. And in this country, that's my right to know. It's my right to attend those dates. It's my right to receive victim services. So we're in 2026, and to this day, they know that when these people start crowding me, flashing their high beams repeatedly, beeping their horns around me, instigating me, putting these lines in, doing all this weird stuff. I've documented it all. I've been promised that none of that would ever be permitted again. And that in the event that behaviors like that were to begin, there would be a, quote, emergency evacuation team in place to respond immediately. I am not an inanimate object. I am not a prop. I am not a plant. This is a plant. I am a human. I eat, I bleed, I breathe, I drive, I move, I give birth to babies, I do business. Plant, human. So when the higher authority continues to communicate with me that in the presence of awareness, which I've had for years now, years and years, and even without the presence of awareness, there is a certain standard of treatment for individuals similar to myself or experiencing circumstances similar to mine that is definitely being violated and at an alarming rate. But they've communicated repeatedly that as well as the badgering and antagonism when they put student driver stickers on the vehicles around me to prepare me for some sort of impending doom because they're allowing an untrained individual who has no idea of the actual circumstances to have some sort of sense of authority. And it's always 100% of the time resulted in pain for me. Always. And they continue to promise that they will never subject me to that again, and that there is a way to a safe space and freedom and all of these things. But what is it? Because just now, a few minutes ago, they started surrounding me with another one of those cars saying student driver. And I said, as I always do, I do not work with student drivers. If it is legal in this country to starve a person, set a person up, delete a person's video recordings from their social medias that they have ownership over, you know, when you enter into an agreement with any social media platform, you're not saying any and all of my content belongs to you and remove my identity from it. You're signing up so that there's a mutual understanding that your content hosted on their platform will be subjected to some of their rules and regulations. It's not the social media people taking my content down. So where is the protection, the virtual law, the protection surrounding individuals hacking someone's bank account, social media accounts for 6+ years and counting with zero resolution? They said they were doing a reconciliation right after 1055 North Granville, where we lived at Granville and Broadway. And they said that they were going to be refunding me all of the money that was taken. They're aware of all of the ways that I've been sexually assaulted and exploited, and they were aware completely. I mean, they used it as their main arguing point that I had PTSD, and they called me and claimed that I was so mentally unwell that I could not even be trusted to be with my own child. Yet there's been no effort at all whatsoever for Xavier and I to be able to connect in a healthy romantic relationship. As a matter of fact, quite the contrary. There's been an extensive amount of effort deployed in attempting to keep Xavier and I away from each other or at odds. Why is that? In what country am I living where this type of behavior is permitted? I began to experience normal, healthy sexual interactions with Xavier again. They allowed someone, I believe it was a woman, to pretend to be Xavier and to touch me down there, as Xavier usually would. But rather than kissing me, they used their finger to pretend that it was a mouth or a tongue. I clearly could feel the difference. I was mortified. I asked them to stop. Immediately, they pulled the emergency go to sleep Heather switch, and I was unconscious. I woke up the next day and I asked him about it, and he said, no, that was me, and tried to make light of it. What in the fuck is going on here? Instagram, can you put some protections on my videos? Because this is not for entertainment. This is truth. This is my life. I'm Heather Gillespie. Some people refer to me as Heather Gillespie Smith. Some people Heather Smith. Some people Coco. I'm all the same one person. I've been reporting on these things with very, very, very little resolution for years now. What's it going to take? When can I move into my house? When can I have access to my money? When will my money be safe in the bank so that no one can do fraud on it? When will my identity and my likeness and my actual circumstances that I and only I have lived through and survived and come on the other side of a stronger and happier and smarter individual for the 3 seconds they allow me to feel those things before they begin the abusive cycle again? When do I get to move forward with my life? When do I get to be invested into being a mother to my children? When do I get to be invested into being a wife to my husband? When do I get to be invested into being friends with my friends? I don't even have a social paradigm anymore. As soon as I make friends and connect with a person and we begin to text or communicate at a deeper level than surface, 24 hours passes and the third party authority that's in my phone all the time decides to block that number or inhibit that communication or send a snake or a what's that other word they use? A honeypot to take the attention of a potential friend or a potential romantic interest in the event that Xavier decided he didn't want to be in this relationship anymore, or that he was confused and cross-dressing in Boys Town for some weird reason, or acting in a way that was humiliating and degrading to me, to our family, to our son, to my other children. When are these issues going to be resolved? And it's not a matter of, do they deserve attention? They most certainly require solutions. So that's where I'm at with all of this, and that's my update for the day. They have continued intermittently to do the remote access of urination, where they cause me at their best timing to need to urgently use the restroom. It's not a health issue. I've already gone to the doctor, and, everything is great with my urinary tract. So it's definitely not a health issue. It's something to do with that line technology. Those certain days when there are, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines running through my neck. They did the same thing to Xavier. His eyes were like bulging out of his face and his neck was like sticking forward. It was so scary. So scary. But they erased those videos from my Instagram. And that is whatever God you believe in, I put that on God, on whoever your God is. I put that in the most serious, 100% honest dialogue. I am not joking or kidding around or telling lies. I am being 100% upfront with you. That is real. That they have done that to me. They continue to do that to me. I would like to take a shower. I just tried to go to the pool to take a shower. They've got the whole block barricaded, despite the fact that it says open on the internet. So there are just many of these antagonisms. No one has gotten me a hotel room, not a single night. Not a single night. It's been another, I want to say 33 nights of sleeping in my vehicle. No access to indoor plumbing during the nighttime hours, which was also promised. That they said they went way too far with that they were not going to permit me to have to urinate into containers or sawed off water bottles ever again, that was inhumane, that they were never going to allow that again. Here we are, Here the fuck we are. Deja vu to me being held in a tent for 7 months, pregnant with Weston, having to pee into a sawed-off water bottle. But now I have a menstrual cycle because I'm not pregnant. So it's even harder for me. But those are just a few of the ways that they've continued to, do this antagonistic, I'm not quite sure what behavior. Here's another thing. I can build a landing page for a website in literally 5 minutes, no question. Not a single question, without any sort of duress. Easy. 5 minutes, I could build a landing page. 15 minutes, I could have a good landing page, completely populated. An hour, I could have an entire website. Every single time I use Square or Wix now, they're stalling it out with some sort of unique customized features and then calling the AI agent a different thing. Aria. Geo. Like, what's going on here? Wix is Wix. It doesn't have its own customizable AI that changes its name and identity each day. What's going on? So when I'm running a business and marketing a business for website development and AI implementation, and I'm being inhibited from accessing normal websites that I am proficient in the use of, what is going on? I want to know what you are doing to me. I do not consent. I do not give you permission. I am the controller of my life, body, mind, and soul. If someone says different, who are they? How do I communicate with them? What is your expectation? What do you desire from me? How do we get on the same page? I went to go check on Charlie Keene the other day. They said he died. Rest in peace, Charlie Keene. I went to go check on pretty much everyone who helped me the first 6 years of this. They're all dead or missing. That's not a funny joke. What the fuck is going on? What is going on? How many years are they going to be permitted to just continue to ignore me? I hope you guys have a great day. And I hope that if there's any way I can reach clarity, and that my rights and my life can be taken a little more seriously and respected a little more than they've been, that would be very, very, very pertinent to any sort of acceptable, peaceful, happy solutions moving forward. Because like I said before, if you were looking at my videos giving daily updates, you could hear my speech, my tone, my dialect, my grammar, my intellect, my everything was very, very, very precise. I was in alignment. I was detoxing myself from music and media at that time. I was only having one specific influence. I was training myself to speak at a very, very high level of respect and class and authority. And, like I said before, the whole tone, pitch, dialect has been changing, and it's not because I've asked it to, it's not because I've given permission for that to happen. So, I'm Heather Gillespie. I have no idea what to make of this. I do not consent to most of it. And I'd like to have my life back in my hands now, please.